Who do you admire?
Is a question I've heard countless times in job interviews. My answer has always been the same. It's my mother. I was raised by a single mother with my twin sister. Our father left us when we were very young, so I have no memories of him. My mother was always busy, and whenever I show appreciation for all what she does to us, such as like Mother's Day, she would say,
You don't need to thank me because this is the path I chose, even though it meant taking your father away from you.
according to my grandmother, my father's infidelity was the reason for the divorce. It must have been a devastating shock for my mother, but she never showed any weakness. She was always upbeat, full of energy, and a truly powerful person. I find it hard to believe that I am her daughter. Compared to her, I am so timid. I used to be easily made to cry by my classmates when I was a child. Even as an adult, I still can't stand up to people strongly. That's why I want to become a person with the strength my mother has. Over the phone, I could hear my sister Lyra's loud voice saying,
You should have planned this spot trip when I am home. Because I want to go to.
Lara is the complete opposite of me. She inherited my mother's assertive part of her trait. But I think she's just a little too aggressive, but she's the only person who I can stand up to. She's very smart, and since graduating from middle school, she's been living away from home as a boarding student at a girls' school. On the other hand, I was not doing well at school studying. So I dropped out of high school. And I have been working as a part-timer ever since. But recently, I realized all people around my age were graduating college and getting better job opportunity. I decided to switch a job for the better career. It was not easy to find a job without high school diploma, but I managed to get a full-time job after about a year of searching and trying while still working as a part-timer. I decided to take my mother to the spa with my first paycheck. Lara graduated from high school and is now working at a boutique in Paris. I didn't know when she would come back, so I decided to go just with my mother. Lara is always self-centered for everything, but when she said,
Fine, please include me for the next trip. Then we all can go together.
so I agreed. So, plan was made. I would take my mother to the spa. My paycheck is not enough to let both of us stay in a luxury inn, but I chose a hotel with a good reputation. Morning of day we leave. My mother seemed extremely excited, and when we got there, she enjoyed the hotel facility itself. Also, she was tearing up multiple times and said,
I am so proud of you, Jill. You grew up financially as you could take me to the spa.
It was a bit embarrassing for her compliment, but if she was that happy, I was truly happy too. However, I still thought it was not enough to return for everything what my mother worked very hard for me and Lara for a whole 22 years. I wondered what to do since there was still time until dinner. Then my mother suggested,
There's a foot bath. Let's try it.
In fact, this is the first time for us to try foot bath for us. We were skeptical at first, whether our bodies would really warm up by just dip our feet to warm water even though cold outside temperature. However, when we actually tried it, we were impressed. My mother said,
It's surprisingly warm.
She was even fanning her face with her hand. I also felt warm and it's comfortable.
This reminds me of the moment. One time back in the day, just 3 of us, we all hanged out just like this,
my mother said. Hearing that, I looked back to my memory, and then just remembered. It was a summer story when Lara and I were in elementary school. It was a very hot day, and we wanted to go to the pool. However, Lara had a big injury on her arm and couldn't go into the pool. Then, my mother suggested,
Well, how about we cool off just with our feet?
Remembering that day, I tried putting my feet in the foot bath again. I still remember the feeling coolness from cold water spread from my feet throughout whole my heated body quickly when I put my feet to water. And it felt amazing. but the water quickly warmed up by the sun heat, so we had to keep changing the water to keep it cold. But even with that trouble, the first Footly pool experience was fun. I am grateful to my mother for coming up with ways to create fun memories for us even when we had no money. I had forgotten until now, but I just felt like that just to remembering my childhood memory. I said, "Yeah, we did that. I remember it." Bye said, and my mother smiled happily. I'm glad to know that our fun memories were also special to my mother. As I was soaking my feet in the foot bath and warming not only my body but also my heart, I heard a man's voice from next door.
Wow, what a post story.
A woman's voice intervened to stop him, and then heard the man's laughter again. I didn't know if those words were directed at us, but I turned around and was surprised to see the man's face. It was familiar. It was Mark, who was in the same class as me from elementary to middle school. Mark was always ridiculing and bullying me. Seeing me as a weakling and a crybaby, he considered me his #1 enemy. I didn't want to see him again if I could help it, but despite my intention to feign ignorance, the words, "Mark," slipped out of my mouth. At first, Mark looked surprised, but then he smiled as if he remembered me. In that moment, a woman beside him asked Mark,
Who is that? Do you know him?
Mark responded,
I think I've seen him somewhere before, but do I know you?
His words shocked me. My relationship with Mark was something of a traumatic experience for me. Because of that, I could recall his name and face instantly. However, it seemed that for Mark, I was so insignificant that he couldn't even remember my name. Upon realizing this, my heart was filled with frustration and sadness. Then, Mark continued with words that ridiculed me further.
Now I'm starting to remember. Yeah, the one we used to bully. He didn't even finish high school, right? I heard his family were so post-instant single mother. He doesn't even have high school diploma.
Mark's words contained all my personal matter, but they were all true. Suddenly, the large man stood up and asked Mark.
What did you just say, kid?
He was a muscular man covered in tattoos. Normally, I would avoid such a person, but now he seemed to be defending me against Mark. As the big man confronted Mark, Mark was at a loss for words and quickly exited the footbath. Afterwards, the big man spoke to me with a smile.
I didn't do anything deserving of thanks. I just spoke up because his words irritated me. Don't worry about it.
His words reminded me of what my mother always told me.
I don't need thanks because this is the path I chose.
My mother, who had been quietly watching until now, wore a genuine smile on her face. My mother maintained her cheerful smile until we ran into Mark. She even addressed the bully man, saying,
What an amazing tattoo.
After chatting for a while, the large man asked her,
Are you here with your son today?
Yes, indeed. He brought me to the spa with his first paycheck.
My mother replied. The big man then said,
What a good son you have. Maybe I should reach out to my mother back home too.
After expressing his gratitude to us, the man bowed and disappeared into the lobby.
It's surprising that despite appearances, there are good people too.
My mother innocently commented, which somehow lifted my spirits. I was also grateful for the existence of that big man. Without him, my spot rib could have been completely ruined. We did not see the big man again after that, and I was able to enjoy the rest of the trip with my mother without any issues. I figured his conviction and his attitude of standing by it were probably unknowingly helping many people. My mother, who had always raised me, and the large man whose name I didn't even know. From that day on, these two people I admired.